5 months ago, me and Sarah Fergani had an opportunity to interview former KensFire reporter Savannah Louie about her upcoming appearance on Survivor 49. Little did we know, she'd end up winning the entire season of Survivor 49. Not only that, she was asked to come back on the very next season, Survivor 50, an all-legends season. I had a chance to talk to her about her performance on Survivor 49, as well as her upcoming season of Survivor 50.
Hi, Savannah. How's it going?
It's good. It's so good to talk to you. I think last time we talked, it was right before 49.
Yes. It's kind of
crazy. A lot happened.
I know. It's kind of crazy because I feel like I've gotten to know you on Survivor. When we first talked, I mean, you were secretly a winner. We didn't know that you were a winner at the time. Now we know, and we know that you're one of the more dominant winners in Survivor history. So it's kind of surreal, kind of like thinking back to that first interview. I rewatched 49 over the last few days to kind of prepare for this, and it kind of like made me kind of see what kind of player you were. You're really a very unique player, very, like I said, a very dominant player. You tied the record for the most immunity wins for a woman in Survivor. Let's start there. So walk me through the journey of transitioning from a Survivor fan to a Survivor winner and Survivor royalty, really.
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know if I can say royalty yet, but I mean, this has been a journey in the making for a long time. I mean, the first time I applied was about 15 years ago. But before that, with season 1, I was one of those people sitting in the living room with mom and dad, and we would watch Survivor every single week when I was just like 7 years old. And so to grow up, I think having a dream, everybody has a dream when they're a kid, right? Maybe it's to be a pop star, maybe it's to be a movie star. For me, it was to be a Survivor player. And a lot of the times as we get older, we lose the ability to kind of chase that dream. And I feel really lucky that my dream has not only, faded away, but I've actually been able to live that dream out, not once, but twice. And so playing Survivor 50, that's the biggest dream for a Survivor fan, which I really was when I went into Survivor 50, because 49 hadn't even began airing yet. So it's just been like this incredible pinch me moment, a moment that's lasted for 9 months by now.
Yeah. Me and you share the same dream. My dream is also to be on Survivor one day, ever since I was a kid.
You never know.
You never know, yeah. And then, so kind of funny, I was thinking back to our first interview, and you told me to apply.
Marcus, great to meet you. Seriously, you should apply, and if you've already applied, just keep on applying.
And I'm like, now a Survivor winner is telling me to apply. Jeff Probst has to, listen to you. So maybe I can use that. But yeah, so talking a little bit about 49, I want to try to cover as much as possible in a small amount of time we have. So talking about 49, literally on the boat, they're introducing all the players. Your first quote is, "This is the easiest million I will ever make." Is it safe to say that you were right about that? Or can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. That quote, "This will be the easiest million I will ever make," came from a place of, I did not have $1 million before I played the game. And so, yeah, up until this point, that is the easiest million I've ever made, because it's literally the only million I have ever made. But I mean, my first job out of college, I was barely making $30K a year. So that to me, $1 million, that is almost like this incomprehensible amount of money, you know what I mean? But I also am someone who is always going to be my biggest cheerleader, you know what I mean? Sometimes I will be a little overly confident, and I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I'd rather lean a little overly confident and have this almost delusional belief in myself that I truly can do anything, versus the opposite, and be someone who is scared to take chances and scared to take risks and lives their life in a very small lane. I think that especially women can find themselves trapped in almost a lane like that at times. And so if I can live my life as big as possible and as confident as possible, it's really resulted in a lot of fun and a lot of crazy adventures. So yeah, I might be a little overly confident, but maybe I manifested.
Yeah, and that overly confidence, it ultimately got you to win. It ultimately made you into one of the more iconic players of the new era, I will say. I'm a little biased, but And it got you as well. Speaking of women, it became one of the more female-dominated seasons, I would say, because of the final three. Obviously, it was you, Sophie, and Sage, the three S's, as I like to call y'all. Like I said, you tied the record for the most immunity wins for a woman. I was really rooting for you in that. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I was really rooting for you to win that last one. I was happy for Sophie. Sophie was like my second favorite player of the season. I love Sophie. So kind of talking about that, let's talk about a little bit about kind of your main allies in the game. So immediately you hit it off with Rizzo, your future 50 league mate, and really everyone on that tribe wanted to work with you. You saw the confessionals from Sage, from Shannon, from Nate. All of them wanted to work with you. What does that say about your social game early on and how you were able to form those bonds and to ultimately the bonds that ultimately got you to the end with Rizzo and eventually Sophie?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the beginning of the game, those bonds that I had with every single person on my tribe were very real to me. They were very genuine because I genuinely really enjoyed all 5 of those other people. I could see a path forward with all 5 of those people who I started out on the tribe with. And so when you talk about my connection with these people, maybe I had a good social game, but also I think a bigger part of it was I genuinely wanted to be friends and see how far I could get with this incredible group of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then kind of continuing that into the tribe swap, there was 2 tribe swaps this season, which was very unusual, which I'm sure played into the kind of dynamics that you had to deal with. But like I said, you immediately clicked with Sophie, Blue Sophie. You said she reminded you of home. You knew within minutes of hugging her that she would be your girl. Can you talk a little bit about that kind of relationship with Sophie and how that helped you with the game?
You know, it's so interesting. When I talk about some of my friends from back home and meeting Sophie, I think a big part of our connection was, being around the same age, being bubbly, being social women who are in the same stage of life. But also a big part of it too was Soph's Hispanic background. I spent 2 years in San Antonio, and there's something about the culture in San Antonio that is very rooted in the Hispanic culture. It's so welcoming and it's so warm, and it's very much family focused, I felt. And I felt that same kind of warmth and family vibe from Soph as well. And so meeting her out there, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like we've met before, or maybe you and I haven't met like specifically, but I feel like I've met people who have a similar background, a similar mindset, a similar sense in values when it comes to family and culture. And it really reminded me of my time when I lived in San Antonio.
Yeah, and living in San Antonio now, I'm going on 2 years now. I can also feel that sense of family and that sense of culture. So I can see how you can see that within Sophie.
Right. And I mean, even when I worked at Ken's, we would all call ourselves like the Ken's 5 family or the Great Day SA family. It felt so family focused. And when I met Soph, it was like this immediately like family connection. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And ultimately helped you get to the end because that ended up being a pretty tight bond, you, her, and Rizzo specifically. So let's talk about episode 8. I think that was really the beginning of your kind of like big arc. That's the one right after Nate was blindsided, and it was really your first adversity that you faced. You're now on the bottom. You're going to self-preservation mode. You're also the main target, and a lot of the people are calling you the mean girl. And you were able to kind of use that and not let it discourage you, and you ultimately won your first immunity challenge, and kind of helped you kind of build up from there. You want to talk about that episode a little bit and kind of showing how, despite all the negativity, you ended up winning immunity and all that?
Yeah, I mean, that was such an emotional time for me. But just like in real life, Survivor is literally a reflection of real life. So when I was out there and I felt like I was at the bottom of my tribe, it was such a trigger for a situation where I had been at the bottom of my tribe, so to speak, in my real life. And so when you see me crying on camera, it's not only because I'm upset about what's happening in the game, but it's also kind of these emotions that I thought I had repressed from years before. So just like in real life though, when I do feel like my back is against the wall, I will do whatever it takes to try to claw myself out of whatever hole I'm in. And a lot of the times that just means put your head down, get to work, do your stuff, and try to do what it takes to get through the rough patch. Because, I mean, again, just like real life, there are always going to be rough patches, whether it's in the game of Survivor, whether it's in your real everyday life. And those tough moments are always temporary. I knew that if I could survive being on the bottom for a temporary period of time, it would be just that. It would just be temporary. And there could be another moment in the game where I was at the top. And that's kind of what happened.
Yeah. And one of those ways that you fought to get out of the bottom was winning immunity challenges. I mentioned it twice already. You became one of the biggest challenge beasts. Did you come into the season expecting to be a challenge beast and winning all these challenges? Because you were dominating out there. There were some challenges where everyone else looked exhausted and you were just like, I could do this for another 2 hours. Were you expecting to be a challenge beast?
You know, I thought I would be lucky if I won one challenge. But seriously, going into Survivor, I knew that anything endurance I would probably be fairly good at, just because endurance is less, in my opinion, about that physical strength and more about that mental strength. And again, like I said, like I have a crazy tenacity. It is my superpower. Sometimes I feel like it can get me in trouble because I do have that delusional confidence and that intensity. But when it comes to an endurance challenge in Survivor, like that's gonna be my superpower.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the finale a bit, and then we can get to 50. So you like we mentioned, you lost that final immunity challenge, and Soph won. You would expect that she would bring you and Rizzo, but instead she decides to put you two up for fire, and you seem pretty hurt by that. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you kind of just said, you know what, let's just learn how to make fire and ultimately beat Rizzo to advance?
Yeah, you know, I think the reason why I was so upset when Soph put me into fire was because I was not going to put her in fire. And I genuinely, her putting me into fire made me genuinely question our relationship, because Soph wasn't acting like I thought she would. And it caused me to wonder, do I actually know Soph? Do I know her not only as a player, but do I know her as a friend and as almost a sister, which is how I've been viewing her for this entire game. And it was also almost like this feeling of rejection. It's almost like when you're dating someone and they say, hey, I'm not interested in you anymore, I don't want to be with you. And you're like, wait, what? Like, yeah. I thought we were endgame. I thought we were going to be together forever. What's going on? And it makes you not only question the relationship, but question yourself a lot. So that's where a lot of the hurt came from. But I mean, at that point, it was day 25. You're so close to the end. You don't have a lot of time to dwell on the rough situation at hand. You kind of just got to act and got to respond and got to hopefully pray to God that you're going to get through whatever rough patch you're in. And for me, that rough patch was making fire. But it was, again, one of those things where I tried to learn and I figured it out.
Yeah. And you did, and you beat Rizzo, sending him to the jury as our fallen angel, which set up the final three. And you ended up winning, despite a very tense question from Christina asking if you can name family members of all the jury members. I was thinking about it. I was like, I wonder if I could do that, because like it's a very something you don't really think about. Yeah, I was like, can I name like my coworkers? Can I name a family member from them? You know, so can you talk about what was going through your brain whenever she asked you that?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, that question was crazy. As a fan, I love that kind of question because it brings a little drama, it brings a little suspense, and it makes someone sweat. And I think if someone is sitting in the final three, you shouldn't let them walk away with a win. You should kind of make them sweat, you know what I mean? But in that moment, I just started looking at the jury and I'm like, first of all, I'm terrible with names. Second of all, I haven't eaten, I haven't been sleeping well. I could barely remember my own mom's name at that point, you know what I mean? And so I tried my best. And I also owned that, you know, I'm sorry, I don't remember the names of these people, but I think that there are a lot of other things that I did, not only in a physical game, but in a social game. I remember other details about you and conversations that were meaningful to me that we had together. And I hope that that would kind of seal the deal and show people I am someone who does deserve the winner, the title of winner for our season.
Yeah. And you did deserve the title for the winner, and you got the win. We're running out of time here, so I'm gonna ask a little bit about 50. How quick were they to ask you to come back for 50? Because obviously you win Survivor 49. They're telling you the entire season that like, hey, there's spots up for 50. You would expect that the winner would be asked. How quick was that question asked? It's like, hey, want to come back?
The morning after I had been crowned sole survivor, Jeff asked me to come back for 50. And in that moment, I just remember being like, is this a joke? Like, really? You want me to be part of this landmark season with so many iconic players? It was a huge honor, and I think shock and gratitude were like the two biggest things that were going through my mind and my body at that point.
Yeah. And your buddy Rizzo, he's also there too. Did you expect him to be axed?
I actually saw him get pulled into the same room. I don't think I was supposed to know that, but I saw him get pulled into the same room just before I did. And so when they asked me to come back for 50, I kind of put two and two together. And I was so grateful that Rizzo was going back, because it's kind of scary to go back for 50 on your own. But being able to look across the aisle of the plane and see one of your best friends sitting right there, or being able to look at your best friend on the beach, even though you might not be speaking or showing how close you really are, it truly was a sense of comfort having someone like Rizzo there.
Yeah. And then talking about your initial tribe, that's really the only thing we have to go off of at this point for 50. So your initial tribe is Rick Devens, who also comes from a news background. We talked about him in our initial interview, and I didn't put two and two together, that you would be on the same tribe. But Rick Devens, Sari Fields, Emily Flippin, Christian Hubicki, Joe Hunter, Jenna Lewis, and Ozzy. In my opinion, the most star-studded tribe.
Honestly, coming in as the new kid on the block here, yeah, let's go! Woo! I'm pretty much like, hey, I'll work with any of you guys if you want to work with me. I feel like I can't be too picky.
What was the feeling like to go to your tribe and see all these big names? I mean, you have Sari, you have Ozzy, two like huge like monument members of Survivor, and then you. How did it feel seeing them and how surreal it was? Because it's not new players like 49 anymore. It's like the people.
Yeah, they're like the big dogs. I don't think I could have picked a better tribe for myself, seriously, by looking at this lineup of players, because truly it is Survivor legends and icons. I mean, when you look at the old school players, Jenna Lewis from freaking season 1, I get to be on the same tribe as her and play with her or against her. Ozzy, who I grew up with a crush on. Sari, who is literally like the icon of Survivor. Like, these are huge players who I have so much respect for. And being able to say not only that I was on the same beach as them, but being able to have meaningful conversations with and strategy conversations with and get to know on a personal level, that it was just such a gift, especially, I mean, to wrap it up and bring it back to where we were at the beginning, especially as a huge Survivor fan before I was a player, to be able to be with this particular group, it was just so special and just like the ultimate experience.
Okay. That's great. I cannot wait to see how it happens, how it works, how far you'll go. And yeah, I'm rooting for you again. And hopefully we're doing another winner interview at the end of the season. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, back to back.
The only one in Survivor history. The only back-to-back winner. Thanks so much for talking, Savannah.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.